And crooked governors' accountability, speaking of Gavin Newsom. That's our top story tonight. Now that COVID, Cuomo has stepped down due to sexual harassment allegations. Other socialist Democrat governors like Michigan's Gretchen Whitmer, New Jersey's Phil Murphy, and Pennsylvania's Tom Wolf and Mr. Newsom, they're likely to get less scrutiny over their state's nursing home deaths. Joining me now is New York Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. Congressman, always a pleasure. Look, you released this statement yesterday saying that we still need to seek justice for those who lost loved ones due to the recklessness of Cuomo and other governors' orders to put China virus patients into nursing homes. How can the GOP beat back the inevitable, well, cover that the biased press is going to try to provide these left-wing governors?
Well, I think it's incredibly important that we don't just accept resignation in lieu of accountability. And so I've been pushing the Assembly Judiciary Committee to pursue and continue its investigation because they were looking at all facets of this. They were looking at the sexual harassment. They were looking at his directive to put COVID-positive patients into the nursing homes with our most vulnerable, even when there were alternatives set up, like the U.S. Navy comfort ship that President Trump sent to New York City that was underutilized, and then the cover-up that his own chief of staff admitted to because they were afraid of the Department of Justice getting access to some of this information related to the nursing homes. So I believe, and also, by the way, the $5 million book deal that he used state time, employees, and tax dollars to write. So I think that the Assembly Judiciary Committee must move forward with this, as we are seeing sheriffs and district attorneys from around the state, from various counties, also pursuing to see if there was criminality in the terms of the sexual harassment. And I think that this must continue, and we must push for those answers.
Right, and I hope the Republicans also don't lose sight of those other governors I mentioned. Now, I don't know much about this woman, so I want to talk a little bit about the incoming governor, Kathy Hochul, I believe is her name. Like I said, I don't know a lot about her. Here's just a taste of her worldview. Watch.
Hi, I'm New York State Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, and I'm proud to stand with Planned Parenthood. We are doubling down in your own state to protect reproductive rights, protect Planned Parenthood. Let's talk about the minimum wage increase. I was the face of this movement all across the state.
So, Congresswoman, what do New Yorkers need to know about their new governor here in a couple of weeks?
Well, first I'll tell you, she's actually more moderate than Governor Cuomo was, and she was a member of Congress who represented Western New York. So she represented Buffalo, which was a much more conservative seat. As a matter of fact, she took it from a Republican, and then she lost it to a Republican one year later. So it is only when she started becoming lieutenant governor, and they had a primary, of course, from the left, that she started to change her tune and start adopting some of these more progressive positions. What I'll say is I believe she will actually probably be better than Governor Cuomo, more conservative. But the real question here is she going to want to seek a full term? Because that's going to determine whether she's going to be just doing the right thing for the remaining of the term for the people of the state, such as repealing that disastrous bail law and trying to really get this economy back on track and stop the fleeing of New Yorkers from our state, or is she going to be trying to position herself as a progressive to try to get the Democratic nomination? In which case, we're going to be out of luck. So that's really
right.
The question that I have for her.
Well, better than Cuomo. That's not a very high bar. I'm just saying. Earlier today, the Senate advanced Biden's $3.5 trillion spending bastardization, so-called human infrastructure bill. Former President Donald Trump responding, saying, quote, "This legislation is an assault on our nation, on our communities, and on the American dream. America, you're being robbed in the dark of night," end quote. Congresswoman, we just got word today, inflation spiked another 5.4% because the socialists are devaluing our currency at historic rates. Yet the Senate GOP blessed the down payment on the Green New Deal, voting for the $1.3 trillion in more spending. Now the socialists want an additional $3.5 trillion. That's nearly $5 trillion. Question, is the Republican Party able or even inclined to fight for fiscal discipline anymore?
Well, look, we do need infrastructure investment, and I think we should separate that $1 trillion, and they really should have fought harder to shave off more money from that and make it something that was really solely focused on roads and bridges and tunnels and airports and seaports, things that we do need for economic development, for population growth, to bring our infrastructure into the 21st century. With the 3.5 trillion, this is socialism. This is, what do you expect when you have a devout socialist, Bernie Sanders, as chairperson of the Senate Budget Committee? You're going to get socialism. And that's exactly what this does. But what's even worse is that they want to jam it through, changing the rules, of course, using reconciliation. And then they don't even want to increase a debt limit to go with it. So Democrats want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to pass the $3.5 trillion in spending, but then they don't want to raise the debt limit in that same bill. They want to bring it up separately, so that way the Republicans are in a quandary. Are they going to vote to increase the debt limit and pay for it? Or are they going to shut down the government? So I think that, the Democrats need to own this. If they're going to spend this money, then they need to be responsible for the vote on that debt limit. And if the government shuts down, it's going to be all on them. And I think that's an important thing that Republicans need to be focused on moving forward. Don't bail them out.
Yeah. Man alive, yeah, but look at all the money we've spent so far. Going forward, we're $28 trillion in debt, for crying out loud. Last thing, a report that came up on CNN, which surprised the heck out of me, revealed that a record number of Republican women were elected in 2020. Even the Communist News Network recognized that Republican women, conservatives, can be a force to be reckoned with. Well, you certainly couldn't do worse than the men and Pelosi, who teamed up to, burden this country with $28 trillion in debt. What's your take on GOP women and their role moving forward?
Well, look, I'm proud to be one of those women who flipped a seat from a Democrat, from a male Democrat, as a matter of fact, here in New York City. And I think it's incredibly important that we continue to support candidates that reflect America. But the difference is we support qualified candidates who have something to contribute to the conversation, the debate, and the policy in Washington. We just don't support people to check off boxes. That's the difference between Republicans and the Democrats. But what I'll say is it's critically important that we hold on to these seats that we flip, like mine in New York City, where I'm surrounded by Jerry Nadler, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Nancy Pelosi spent $20 million trying to prevent me from winning. I'm proud that I was the most outspent candidate to be successful in flipping a seat. But certainly with the election next year, I'm going to need the support of Americans across the country, and they can support me at NicoleForNY.com. But this is a critical thing. We need to hold on to those seats if we want to win back the other 5 to take the House of Representatives and finally put Nancy Pelosi in retirement where she belongs, Chris, and where the taxpayers.
Yeah, I like what you said. Yeah, amen to that. I like what you said, that it's not just checking boxes, it's actually qualified people, because there are so many people that the Democrats have, the socialists have. They just check boxes. They don't even worry about their qualification to be in government. Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, always a pleasure. Thanks.